Well, plenty of major races coming up in this November's election, including the one for Senate. I'm joined today by Dr. Raul Garcia. He's a Yakima physician who is currently the top Republican candidate in Washington's race for U.S. Senator, and he's been making the rounds here in Bellingham today. Thanks for taking the time today, Dr. Garcia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
So, what have you been up to during your visit in Bellingham today?
Well, we actually had another show this morning. We have a meet and greet this afternoon, and then another meet and greet later on in the evening. So, just meeting people, listening to the problems in this area, and seeing how I could best represent all of you. And as I said, to be a U.S. Senator, but from the state of Washington. So my goal is to represent this state and its citizens in Washington, D.C.
Is there anything you've gathered that's area specific here to Whatcom County you've picked up on?
Well, I've heard a little bit about transportation, but obviously transportation is big all over our state. My main push as a physician and for my experience of what I've seen, the crisis that we have in Washington state, one of the leading states in the country, is our fentanyl issue. And this is something that I want to make sure that all our listeners hear, because as your United States Senator, what I'd like to bring is a government of solutions. You know, we sit here and we talk a lot about the issues and what's wrong. But I think that to be a good leader, you want to bring about ideas that bring about good solutions for families. And I've said, as your next United States Senator, I will bring about the Americans Against Fentanyl Act, which are drastic measures compared to what we do now. And what I am proposing is manslaughter charges for drug dealers and mandatory rehab for addicts. And I think both very important. I think we're not harsh enough on the supply, and we're not compassionate enough on the addiction side to make sure that we have a comprehensive addiction program that includes mental health and counseling and relationships with businesses and tech colleges and universities that want to take these graduates and bring them back into society. But we need to clean our streets of the supply so these people can come back into our communities and not have that same dealer there.
So how has your background as an emergency physician over in Yakima kind of informed your approach towards this fentanyl crisis?
Well, I could tell you that I still do shifts as an emergency physician, and I see 2 to 5 overdoses every single shift. And it's getting worse. I mean, the patients are getting younger. And this is a crisis that now, where we stand, one human life is lost every 4 minutes and 45 seconds in America. So this is something that we have to take serious and that we have to find a solution to, because we're losing our city streets.
So you were previously running for Washington governor, but announced last summer that you're going to instead run for Senate. What went into that decision to make the switch?
Well, as everybody knows, in 2020, I ran for governor, and what I like to say was pretty idealistic, that I thought I would win a state election in 10 weeks. But to our surprise, we were backed by a lot of prominent leaders in the state, which I think woke my wife up as to the fact of what I already knew from working for Senator Dole, that you really can make a big change in public service. So we stayed involved. We created a couple of non-for-profit organizations, both to help Washington. One was to help Washingtonians with education on COVID. The second one was to highlight how we had succeeded after the pandemic and listen to the people around the state. And we made the switch because my good friend Dave Reichert decided to run for governor. And I always had a thought in my mind that if Dave Reichert or Bruce Denmeyer decided to do that job, I respected 2 individuals that I respected very much, that I would step aside for them to run. And that's what made the decision to step aside for them, and had good talks with the National Republican Senate Committee, who came out and asked me, would you be interested in running against Maria Cantwell? And of course, my original love for public service was born when I worked for Senator Dole back in 1990. It was my own American dream to one day in my life be like Bob Dole. And truthfully, I think that we could learn a lot from the Bob Doles of the world that worked across the aisle with Democrats and Republicans to make sure that we came to solutions. And I think that the divisiveness that we have now is something that is also a big threat to our country, our democracy, and something that we need to start electing leaders that want to end this divide. And together as Americans, as you know, when I came into this country as an immigrant, that's all I thought of, right? America as Americans. I never thought we would have this divisiveness in our state and our country. So it is one of my goals to be one of the pioneers to push that unity back again, that Democrats and Republicans who work together to find true solutions for our people.
So taking a look at the Senate race, there's that recent poll by Cascade, PBS, and Elway that showed Senator Cantwell's projected lead seems to be shrinking from last November's poll when you were down 20 points. Now you're down just 9 points in that May poll. Why do you think there's been such a dramatic shift here?
Well, I think that people are tired of failed policies, and I think that we have failed at our cities and our state and even our country. And we go down these rabbit holes with policies that have now been shown to be ineffective. And I think people want to change. People don't see our lives changing. They see our lives getting worse, and they want fresh leadership. And to have someone like me that says, I am going to bring my scientific mind to politics. I'm not a career politician, but I'd like to work with those solutions that have worked elsewhere according to results, what has worked, what has not worked, and bring about that government of solutions is something that I think is getting a lot of traction, especially even in King County, where people have approached me and said, look, if you're bringing about solutions to these problems that we have, we're right behind you.
So at the end of the day, why do you suggest people vote for you over Senator Cantwell?
Well, I would like to feel that we're in a position right now where I don't believe that our senators, especially my opponent, is representing our everyday family in Washington anymore. I think that career politicians have lost touch with our everyday problems and our everyday life. And myself, on the other hand, as an emergency physician for the last 26 years, I've been in a microcosm of society. I mean, we see the crime getting worse. We see the drugs getting worse. We see the health process getting worse in this state. I mean, my opponent ran on health care 6 years ago. Unfortunately, we have one of the worst health cares in the country. She ran on education. Again, we have one of the worst education progress in the country. So I'd like to bring fresh leadership, fresh ideas. I'd like to thank Senator Cantwell for her 24 years of service to the United States Senate. I think that 24 years of public service takes a lot of personal sacrifice. So I want to give honor to that, and I want to give honor to all of our public servants. But I think that we are ready for a new change, and I want to make sure that change, because it's going to happen whether we like it or not, I want to make sure that change is positive.
All right. That was Dr. Raul Garcia. He's Washington's top Republican candidate in the race for a seat in the U.S. Senate. Thanks for joining us today, Dr. Garcia. Really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your time here in Bellingham.
Thank you so much for the time, and you have a great weekend.